This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by MJ Today Media, publishers of this podcast, as well as our weekly title Marijuana Today, and the excellent Green Rush podcast, as well as our new show Weed Wonks with Jordan and Andrew. You can find Weed Wonks everywhere you find podcasts, or you can open up weedwonks.com with Wonks spelled Wonks. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Monday, October 21st, 2019, and you're tuned in to episode 822 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. We return again to the ongoing vape health scare, this time with an update out of Massachusetts, where a judge is expected to rule on a case today involving Governor Charlie Baker's 4-month ban on the sale of all vaporizer products, both THC and nicotine. A hearing was held on Friday in which Massachusetts Public Health Commissioner Monica Burrell testified that she thought the use of vaporizer products by underage consumers was not actually a public health crisis, but rather an issue to be dealt with on the longer term, which could play into how Judge Douglas Wilkins rules. With vaporizer bans being temporarily halted in other states like Oregon and Michigan, the vaping industry seems to have some momentum on its side, but we'll have to wait to see how it actually rolls out later today. I'm sure we'll be back with details on this. On Friday, a judge in Montana halted a ban on the sale of flavored e-cigarettes in that state that was to have taken effect tomorrow. Montana Governor Steve Bullock announced the ban on all vaporizer products back on October 8th, saying, like every other ban-dropping governor before him, that the ban was partially intended to save the kids. On Friday, Ravalli County District Judge Jennifer Lint signed a temporary restraining order against any action by the state government to ban vape sales, agreeing with the plaintiffs that brought the suit that such prohibitionary regulations would be ruinous to their businesses. A hearing has been scheduled for October 30th to further consider the matter, so until then, the vape ban is off in Montana. Today's final top story swings us out to Oklahoma, where legal marijuana businesses are running into a bit of a problem in that state law requires them to only sell properly lab-tested medical marijuana, but so far, no lab testing company has been given license to operate. A spokesperson for the Oklahoma Medical Marijuana Authority said they will be releasing emergency guidelines on November 1st for how operators should proceed, the same day that the state will start accepting applications from hopeful testing labs. Oklahoma is one of the nation's newest active medical marijuana markets and is characterized by extremely low barriers to new market participants, which explains the more than 4,000 growers that have been given license, on top of 1,651 dispensaries, 1,168 processors, and 200,000 plus patient applicants. This is a great story to read in full. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, MJ Today Media, which makes this podcast our weekly flagship title, Marijuana Today, as well as the Green Rush podcast and our newest show, the just launched Weed Wonks. We're finalizing our plans for our big annual Las Vegas show, which we record during the week of the Marijuana Business Daily Conference, which pulls in more than 25,000 attendees. We're recording special episodes this year of all our weekly shows. That's Marijuana Today, the Green Rush podcast, and Weed Wonks. There are just a couple of sponsorships left for those special shows, so if you have a legal marijuana marketing story to tell to the best audience in the business, then you need to get in touch with me at shay@mjtodaymedia.com, with Shay spelled S-H-E-A. We also have just a couple of spots open in our regular sponsorship lineup, which again taps into the best group of listeners in legal cannabis. That's you. We have more than 30,000 people listening into our shows now, 30,000 people who are likely either in the industry already or who are working to get in. That's exactly the right kind of audience you need to reach. If you're spending any marketing dollars in legal cannabis, you need to be spending some of them with MJ Today Media. One last time, you can email me at shay@mjtodaymedia.com. All right, time for the Blitz. A federal judge on Friday threw out a lawsuit filed against the Drug Enforcement Administration for its lack of progress processing applications to grow marijuana for research purposes. Regular listeners should know by now that the only licensed cultivator of marijuana that is clear for academic research is the University of Mississippi, which is generally known for growing crappy marijuana that is closer to industrial hemp than it is to legal commercial products. The DEA was sued this summer for dragging its heels on processing applications from cultivation companies wishing to join the University of Mississippi's ranks. But on Friday, a judge found that the DEA had taken adequate steps to process those applications, even if none have actually been approved yet. There's a lot of complicated context and detail here, so I direct you over to Kyle Yeager's piece on Marijuana Moment for the full dive in. Colorado Public Radio has a really interesting story up about a case before that state's Supreme Court over how much additional verification judges can ask for from people on probation who want to stay registered as medical marijuana patients. The court involves Colorado resident Alicia Walton, a defendant who was ordered by her judge to have a doctor appear in court to back up her claim that she was a legitimate medical marijuana patient. Given that doctors are generally busy people and have a hard time making it to court on matters like this, a judicial requirement that they do appear in court could make it all but impossible for people to use medical cannabis on probation. That's the angle that the lawyers for Miss Walton are attacking here. The court heard oral arguments on the case last week with a final decision yet to be made. My home state of Maine grabs a headline today with a good look at how and why the state's rollout of legal adult use marijuana sales have been so slow and what that delay has been costing some new prospective cannabis businesses. In short, Maine's former racist disgrace of a governor, Republican Paul LePage, did everything in his power to block any kind of progressive marijuana policy reform. The story over at Sky Statement also dives into the thousands of dollars wasted by people opening up new cannabis businesses in Maine, as they've had to cover months of extra costs with leases and payroll and other operating expenses. A good cautionary tale here. This next headline is another one with a huge lesson on how to not operate in the cannabis industry. The Associated Press is reporting that Janelle Thompson, a well-known figure in California's marijuana industry, has pled guilty to charges that she sold large quantities of CBD vaporizers that contained dangerous synthetic THC. Federal law enforcement officials say that one brand of vaporizers in particular, called YOLO, have been tied to Ms. Thompson's company, which you might remember from way back in 2014 when it managed to get its CBD vapes into the gift baskets given to Oscar winners every year. Ms. Thompson has yet to be sentenced. New York industrial hemp farmer Dale Weed, which is just a great name for a hemp farmer, just told his local news station WHAM that he's having a hard time keeping people from stealing his hempy crop. Mr. Weed said that his fields used to be hit with weekly nighttime raids, but that recently the frequency has boosted to daily affairs. That's something we're likely to see everywhere hemp is grown, both because a lot of people will think it's adult use cannabis, but also because I suspect there's a lot of people who would still be happy enough to swipe hemp these days. Kyle's back with another story, this time with a headline about a former government official who thinks that cannabis should be made more legal, well after they have any power to do anything about it. This time we have former Secretary of Veterans Affairs David Shulkin, who just gave an interview with military publisher Task and Purpose, in which he states that he thinks the Veterans Affairs Department should be more proactive about medical marijuana research, just in time for when no one cares what he thinks. So brave. Chris Moore over Mary Jane closes out our day today with a pickup of news out of New York City of a recently published video shot back in 2015 of police apparently planting marijuana as evidence into a man's car who was then charged with its possession. Luckily, the two men accused in the crime have had their charges dropped here, but that's not always the case, and they still had to needlessly deal with the New York City criminal justice system. Open this one up, share it, watch the video, and remember that cops are not your friend, generally. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, MJ Today Media, and to all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today. Today.
One take, Shay. One take.